Well, guys, it's been a month and a half that I've had my Argon cylinder, and only a month since I last did the first video on it. And I've done so much that I had to actually make a list. Now, I don't do scripts, so this is like a half-hour worth of content, just little bullet points. In the previous video, last year I got this TIG welder from Weaver, and didn't come with the cylinder, of course, because the cylinder cost so much more. So I worked really hard during last fall, and I saved up $450, and I bought an Argon cylinder at Robert's Oxygen. Those guys are pretty nice. And, well, I didn't want to buy a good regulator, so I just bought a cheap $20 Amazon Argon regulator. Been really great. Honestly, even if I seal it, it holds pretty good pressure. So I think that's pretty good. Then also a canopy blew into the car park, so that was some free metal. I hoped that was stainless steel or aluminum, but no, it was just iron. Oh well. Then let's see, I did some test welds on stainless steel, and then I welded a spark plug socket so I can more easily hook it to a wrench, and that worked great. And I loved how it turned out. Well, since then, the real fun has begun. I've actually hosted a, I guess you could call it a welding class. Basically, I do private tutoring with people, and sometimes it's more of just come over and get to use my tools as a practice. And that's what this ended up being.
Ready?
Yep.
Good.
You can actually use the TIG to melt that then. Now what's funny is in 2023, I was walking along Lansdowne Avenue near Philadelphia, and I found this little brass rod. And when I saw it, I thought, you know, that looks like it's a filler rod. And whenever my customer came over to use my tools, he did a lot of welding. I gave him the bronze brass rod just to see what it does, and it was so funny. It actually made a really beautiful weld.
It's definitely going to go fast though.
Okay.
There's definitely some impure. Oh, because we didn't clean it off. We probably should probably should have acetoned it or something.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
But that's a pretty looking thing. All right. Ready?
Yeah. Wow. Whew. Okay, that's enough of that.
Yeah, I'll stick the baling wire.
It went into my my hood, and I was like, whew. You know, for that filler rod being so much of a mistake, the end result looks great.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I'm sure it looks pretty.
That was a lot of fun though, because it was a lot of work, but for about 5 hours, I was outside just grinding off paint from bicycle parts, and he was inside doing his test welds. Actually, I can grab some. So these are the test welds. Kind of rusting up a little bit now, but it's interesting to see how different people learn in different ways. You know, for me, I'm very much a learn and implementation. I don't like doing practice stuff. I like to just be like, well, I need to make a ladder. I'm going to make a ladder. If I fail, I'm going to learn how to unfail what I did. And if not, I'll start over. But I rarely have to start over. And I don't usually just sit down and try to weld over and over again. Although I used to whenever I was first starting out. And I think nowadays I have enough skills in a lot of things that it kind of carries over pretty well. You know, it's funny. In my first video about TIG welding, a lot of people didn't realize that I was kind of playing around with it, testing the limits, seeing what I could get away with. Some people commented in a way that seemed to imply that they thought that I was, since I was trying such different things, that was actually me trying to do a consistent thing. It's like, no, I was intentionally seeing what the boundaries were that I could push. I do know a fair bit about molten metal, and I've played with molten metal quite a bit, and electric arcs and stuff like that. And I was intentionally seeing how fast I could heat it and all sorts of stuff. And that kind of a lot of people thought that I was just being like an average user, when no, I was actually kind of really enjoying playing with what I could get away with it, and I've been able to take it pretty far. Granted, I don't really have the desire to make beautiful welds on some of the stuff I do. Like, for instance, what we're going to talk about later, I just threw it together as quickly as I could because it was taking too much time. Then I started noticing that my poor argon cylinder, well, it was leaking, and I think that the valve is actually damaged, because if I empty the regulator and I tighten the valve on the cylinder as much as I can, it still leaks a little bit. Well, at least when I tighten it enough, as much as a cylinder usually needs. But if I like grip it between my legs and just wrench it without actually using a wrench, then it goes down to only losing a little bit every week. But man, I lost like half the gas just from not being able to wrench this thing down tight enough. So I think there might be like a grain of sand or something in the actual valve seat. And so that's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate, because this regulator slowly fills back up no matter how tight I make this, and it stays at about 500 psi. So I keep this shut, and hopefully that can stop it. I'm going to see if maybe Robert's Oxygen swaps them out. If that's the case, then I'm going to tell them, mark this one to get someone to inspect it, and I'm not going to worry too much about it. But if I'm stuck with this one, I'm going to be like, could you please help me? That's unfortunate that I only get to keep the argon for about a month and a half. It was such an issue that I actually wondered if maybe, since it was so sudden, maybe it was due to the cold. And I got some 30-watt DC heaters, and I actually was able to hook them up to it and feed some power in through that little custom power supply that I built from that Anchor battery. And it didn't really increase the pressure at all. Good attempt. And I later did the calculations and found that if I could increase the temperature by 50 degrees Fahrenheit, you might be able to see it on the pressure gauge, but it's not as much as I was hoping. It definitely was that I was leaking, but it was a good experiment nonetheless. It might be good in the future if I have solar panels, if I have a lot of heating elements and I want to keep this thing as hot as the back of a truck in Texas in summer, well, that might actually make the gas go a little bit further, like maybe 3%, 5%, something like that. If I really feel like it, maybe using spare parts. Don't know. Oh, right. I also replaced my welding helmet I've had since 2003 with an Optrel welding helmet. Such a cool word. Plus, it's a Swiss brand, so you know I love that. And yeah, so I really like this. This looks like the kind of thing that, well, almost looks like like you could build a spaceship with this. But for me, I think like, oh, you could build a futuristic train or something like that, like some tunnel or something. I don't know, you probably don't weld tunnels, but oh well. Really happy with that. I think it's funny that I stuck to like 2003, 2000. I kind of stuck to the early 2000s with my welding hood, but oh well, that's pretty good. That still works. It's just kind of my style, I guess. Right, so then the next thing is the canopy. Boy, I had so much metal left over from the canopy, but I decided that, you know what? I was going to put it to good use. It was free, and I ended up building this. Okay, well, it's getting all caught up and stuff now. I built myself a nice little custom welding cart, something to hold the cylinder, to hold the welder, and all the cables and stuff. Yeah, it sucks. It really sucks. I only recently realized I should probably have my welding hood on it, so I added this clamp just tonight, but oh well. I can always weld something else onto there, or just forget about it and procrastinate because it's done. Now these little metal wheels are actually from a little shopping cart thing, the domestic kind that people get that fold up. I didn't get the other one because I realized the other one had plastic wheels. I could just 3D print wheels like that. I like the metal ones though. So we don't really use these carts. I know a lot of people, it's really popular with a lot of people, but for me, not so much. Got it. Found that in the basement of an abandoned building, and I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to keep those wheels. That works pretty good. And yeah, I'm just really happy with this. It was frustrating to make. I just didn't feel like it. It took so much time, and it's not like anything is ever the right time to do something. Life is always a mess of quick expansion. And, well, I've made things a little bit more difficult with for myself because, you know, I try to do things as cheap as possible. And I have not been using filler rod. That's right. I have not been using filler rod. I have been using baling wire that I found in the garbage. At least I call it baling wire. It's just wire. And it is weird. It welds very weirdly. It is just... That is a weird metal. It probably has a whole bunch of stuff in it. It doesn't really stink. It doesn't smell like it has zinc on it. But it's just a weird wire. And it doesn't really oxidize. I haven't had it rust yet. So yeah, I'm really... I'm learning, but I don't know what I'm learning. And I have a lot of baling wire to use. I don't feel like wasting money on filler rod just yet. So for all the steel welding that I'm doing, I'm just going to keep using the baling wire that I find in the trash. And I mean, look at this stuff. This stuff is amazing. It's actually kind of cool. It doesn't seem... It hasn't really rusted. It was in a box of stuff that was all rusted, but it didn't rust. And then it doesn't have any oil on it, it seems. Of course, it always has stuff on it, but I don't know. It's just it's funny what I can get away with. You know, that also almost makes me think, like, that's another thing too. A lot of people commented, people that might not know me, or some people that know of me but they don't really know me, that I just try whatever, and I find out you can get away with a lot of weird stuff. It's like how people that they really love the old 1930s refrigerators, the General Electric monitor tops, and they've learned that you can just put, instead of having sulfur dioxide in there, you can just put R134A in them, and they work fine. It's like beautifully simple. Now, the outcome of using baling wire is not quite beautifully simple, but oh well. So, I'm really good at remembering things, but I'm not good at remembering that I've done them. I'm just good at doing them. And it's funny, I have never left this on by accident. I'm so good at it, but I'll wake up at 2 a.m. and I'll think, did I actually do it? Because it blends in with every other moment in my life that I've closed one of these valves. So what I've made is well, okay. In all honesty, this was a piece of metal from a light restoration that I failed to make a cage. At the time, I couldn't see through my helmet because I didn't have the optrel. And so I just had this loop left over that it was going to be a little cage around a light bulb. And, well, it's just a little wristband. And so when I have this on, that needs to be checked. In order to take this off, I need to properly check this. And then I know if that wristband's not on me, that means that Argon Cylinder is done. It's just a token gesture, something to to make sure in my mind, like, well, yeah, I don't have it on there. There is one issue. This could get stuck in the glove, but, you know, it's more of just so I don't have to walk back to the workshop, because I live so close. If I was 20 miles away, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, well, it'll have to do whatever it does. But since I'm so close to the workshop, it drives me nuts, because then I'll wake up at 4 a.m. and come over. I guess the last thing to talk about is the most recent one. I ended up needing to help the LADC in Lansdowne move their little makerspace to their other office building, because there was no sense in them renting 2 buildings. And they brought their Glowforge laser engraver, and so I'm actually working on setting them up a ducting system so it can have the same Fantech FR160, I think, something like that, and a fan, but it just pushes it through an abandoned chimney in the same building. And so I built this really tall bracket, and it mounts to the table that the laser engraver mounts to. I was able to use the TIG welder. It's that same metal from that canopy, and and then also a piece of 1930s conduit. No, actually 1980s conduit. The 1930s conduit was taken off this building. I've used that for other stuff like that big lamp. Never mind. And painted it, installed it, and I think it looks pretty nice. We still don't have it hooked in yet because I still need to build the rest of the system. But hey, does it look nice over that table? That's pretty much it. I say that like I haven't, like it's not enough, but that's quite a bit to do in just a month and a half. That's the thing. That's like only a small portion of it. I have had times in that month and a half where I felt like, I haven't TIG welded in a long time, and so that's just a little bit of proof about how fast I'm moving with stuff. I really like that this is vertical. I really like that. It takes up almost no space. That's been the first month and a half. I think I can consider it that I've pretty much half paid off that Argon Cylinder with all the work that I've gotten with it. And yeah, a little bit tired of welding. At least welding steel. I'm not really a fan of it. Stainless steel is really fun though. Thank you very much, Beaver, for sending me the welder. Thank you very much for Robert's Oxygen for being such a welcoming place, because I just go in and I'm like, I want to do this. I want to do it as cheap as possible. And the guys there are like, I mean, you can get away with it, but it might be a little bit difficult. And I'm like, well, okay, give it a shot. And they've entertained some things that backfired on me, like replacing the glass on that op drill with regular glass. And we're going to see, can you cut praseodymium glass with a glass cutter? I don't know. Ooh, that is some weird glass. I can hear it still cracking. Oh, you can see the pieces are flying off. I should wear a face shield for this.
Yes.
Okay. That is some weird glass.
Well, it could be tempered.
Yeah.
So you can only grows it.
You can grow it? Okay.
Yeah. It seems to be grossing all right.
Okay.
Except for that.
Yeah.
There isn't any, the score isn't having any effect.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I mean, most tempered glass explodes into a whole bunch of little squares.
Little redneck diamonds, as they call it.
Yeah, right. That's what they call it. I don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is I have a scar on one of my wrists from when a guy was unloading sheets of that, and Yeah, I guess that's it.
Oh, yeah.
And he caught the corner of the sheet on the metal like holder in the truck, and it like blew up, and I didn't even notice right away. But
Yeah.
I had this little diamond in my wrist for
Yeah.
about 10 minutes, and then I was like, "Oh, where's this blood coming from?"
Well, thanks for that little adventure. Turns out you cannot cut the shades, the shade 10 glass. You really just can't cut it. And so I ordered again, another one that didn't fit. Oh my gosh. Well, that is good and thoroughly scratched now. My job is almost done. Okay. You know what? That's good enough. When we were in Illinois last, my father actually showed me that those auto darkening lenses are sensitive to remote control. So that's a way that you can actually test them. Well, that's pretty smart. Yeah. Now, unfortunately, with this, there is a the darkness of it. It's kind of in a band, and as you turn the knob, the band goes up or that goes down. It's a gradient. So that's definitely pretty cheap. I can guarantee you the Optrel module that this came with most likely did not have any sort of gradient or issues like that. I was able to grind it down and make it fit. I thought it would be a bit of a more grindy endeavor, but it turns out it actually wasn't that far off. So I should have gone with that first, but you know, it's always nice to have a place where you can walk in and be like, I want to see if having 10 shade 10 lenses together would allow you to look into a nuclear reactor, you know, and they'll be like, I mean, I guess it could, but you can buy, it's a free country. You can buy 10 shades of shade 10 if you want, I guess. I'm joking. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this, the battery cart, little things that I'm doing. I hope you enjoy how productive I am with this kind of thing. And just thought it's good to record videos of this stuff because then you guys can see, and maybe you guys can feel like, oh, I have a welder and I haven't used it in 3 years. I'm joking, but kind of. Hope you guys enjoy this video, and thank you very much for watching. See ya. I am tired. Yeah. Oh, if you guys ever find any odd little engraved signs, send them to me, and maybe I'll glue them to the to the welding cart. We can have ones that say like high voltage or something.